Alright folks, welcome to this exciting video where you once again join us in the wild landscape of Scotland, and today it's a foggy landscape. And for this adventure we've come to explore a piece of Cold War history. I believe there is a private residence in the middle of here, so we're going to come with respect like the landowner and record as much history as we can left from the Cold War period. And this is basically one of the Cold War Rotor bunkers which were dotted over the country, and it's like, looks like a farmhouse, whereas underneath it there's actually an underground bunker. So we're going to walk around the perimeter of this area and just see if there's any clues of that Cold War history in the land. And special guest today on the video folks, we're once again joined by the Highlander 87 exploring crew out here. Check them out on YouTube folks, Highlander 87. Anyway, let's get into this adventure, exploring 1950s Cold War history out in this foggy, windy land of Scotland. So look at this folks, this house here, which is the private residence, this is actually the house on top of the bunker entrance, and these were all identical. It's a bit like they used to do with the chain home radar and such like places. It was basically a fingerprint of a building that they would rebuild all over the country at the entrance of their bunker. So check this out folks, we're now in the heart of the Cold War complex here, and we actually just met the gentleman at the house. So yeah, he was actually nipping away, but we're going to catch him again when he comes back, and I think he's going to tell us some more detail about the history in this area. And he basically gave us permission to come up and have a look, and yeah, we're going to document the history here folks, starting off with this little building up here on the side of the hill. I love the character of the buildings which were built in the Cold War. Each of these buildings for a purpose. And I believe there was actually a radar system on this hill at that time. Wow, yeah, look at this folks, there's loads of these little buildings, it's like a mad complex. Just check it out, the ladder goes up on the roof. Wow, this is insane scenes of Scotland right here. Wow, look at this folks. That'll be some electrical boxes. Each mast will have one of these. Yeah. Look at that there.
It's a big sliding door.
Wow. Yeah, this is interesting folks. These rotor bunkers are often all over the UK, and this is the first time we've had a proper like close-up look at some of the details and some of the history from this time period. We do document like ROC bunkers and things which are from a similar era. So it's cool to see this, a bigger complex, and all that went on around in the outer perimeter of a thing like this. And just check this out here, the shape of the metalwork. And then look, it's had a massive thick door, which is incredible. Look at the runners where the door has been rolling. Wow, that's been a seriously strong door right there. And it looks like there's a few of these masts and buildings dotted over the area. Check this out folks, this is on top of the building, look, it's got this rung. And then check it out here, wow, this big metal piece on the roof. Just think of the size of whatever was mounted on here. Ancient, maybe a radar dish. Sometimes they had dish systems and stuff to pick up like signals and things like that. Or to like, obviously pick up like incoming enemy attacks. Look, this is an older ladder at this side, maybe put in the early days of this site, and then as the site was like modernised and upkept, they put in the newer ladder. Look at this here, the paint. The original Cold War paint right there folks, still on the structure. Wow, what a scene. Wow, this ladder's bent at the bottom, so it kind of actually doubles back on itself. So underneath this area here folks, there's actually a massive underground bunker system, and from the surface you can't even tell. There is little clues of history being around here, but if you didn't know any better you would have no idea all that's under your feet. And there's an interesting big building here which I believe is an air vent shaft for the deep bunker. So look at this folks, here's more construction. When the gentleman gave us permission to come into here, he did say watch we don't fall down any holes, so we're being super wary here as we walk around. But shout out to the gentleman for letting us have a look in here, and we appreciate being able to document this history, because every year it kind of disappears more and more, and then at least with these videos you can kind of see how things were at a certain time in history. And I think this is some sort of water system, maybe like either a sewage works or a fresh water works. And then look, there's these pipes leading down into the structure. I'm no trusting this. Oh, look at that. Post office telephone. So that shows this could be, or maybe that lid came from a different place. Who knows, folks. It is interesting to look at this though and see what's left. And look, the original site leads on round. Wow, this is crazy. And this up here on the hill is one of the air intakes for the fresh air going down into the deep bunker complex. So let's go and take a look at it, folks. This is so cool. The character of that, it's almost eerie. Look at this, folks. This is one of the big air intakes, and look at the mesh around the top. Then look at this big metal door. See, there is an emergency escape on these bunkers, and this could be one of the original doors off that. Wow. Yeah, even this door though. You shouldn't have rang the channel DJ, just rang the bell, folks, and we could hear it ringing inside. Oh, that's so funny, folks. That's actually a doorbell right there. Still working. So this is super interesting, folks. I love the character of this here with the way the mesh is and the way it's built. Stuff they built back in the Cold War, it had a certain character. It was here for a purpose. These bunkers were built for survival in the event of nuclear devastation on the land. Whereas the ROC bunkers we normally visit, the people inside them would have perished. These bunkers were designed for survival through the darkest times, and even potentially through like a nuclear winter. These bunkers had everything that the occupants needed, and important figures in each local council would be in these buildings. Yeah, this is another interesting bit here. What's this round the side? Oh, look at the shape of it. Oh, look at this, folks. There's actually a pipe coming out of there. Yeah, so many interesting little details on a site like this, folks. And look, it's got that kind of waterproof coating on it. Wow, what a scene. And just look at the character of this incredible air intake from this angle. Wow, that is a madness. Real Cold War history on the channel. We're now heading back up to the road here, folks. We're going to see if there's any more history along the actual track that we came in on, because it kind of loops right around this site. The site is absolutely massive, and it gives you an idea of what's under the ground here. It was basically enough space and enough facilities for people to run whatever was left of the country. They could basically be safe under there and carry out for a good while whatever they needed to do. Maybe controlling militaries and soldiers on the surface, making sure the maximum number of civilians survived, maybe measuring the fallout through the ROC bunkers while those occupants were still in good health and able to carry out their duties. Look at this, folks. Here's more remnants of what would have been a secure outer fence back in the times of the Cold War. There's no chance you could have walked around in an area like that, or an area like this, and that's why it's cool nowadays that we're able to do that with the kind permission of the gentleman that owns this land. Shout out for letting us have a look at the history. I just love to see it, and I love to document it here on the channel. I would strongly advise people though not to be traipsing about here without permission though, because it is kind of private land. But yeah, it's interesting, the character of these concrete buildings in front of the green grass, the way the metal all rusts. Each of these, I believe, may have had some sort of dish on top, maybe one of those rotating dishes. The centimetric early warning radar station, and it was built in 1952 and was designated an R1. So there we go, it's actually got a single story bunker under the ground, unlike the one in Fife which has got like 3 stories under the ground. So it is interesting that they had that under here and in this piece of land, and it's cool to see that, like, 1952 it was built. That gives you an idea of the architecture of this Cold War history.
In the 60s it was taken over by the US Navy.
1960s. So just think, you would never have gotten into a site like this to have a look around. Another interesting thing here, folks, I'm not sure if it's the Met Office or whatever, they've got a weather station in here.
During this period,
And I can see there's a Stevenson screen and stuff taking the temperature of the air out here. What are you saying here? Highlander 87's got the history, and it's interesting to hear this.
during this period the bunker was substantially modified and converted into 2 levels.
Oh, so there you go, folks, it is a 2-level bunker. And we wouldn't have known that if we hadn't looked up that little bit of history on it. It's cool to put that on the video so you get more of a picture of the history. So the US Navy converted it into a 2-level bunker. That must have been a serious amount of work they carried out. And if anybody's from the US Navy in that era, from the 60s onwards till the end of the Cold War, get in the comments and tell us if you remember about this site. And I think this has been another one of these little radar buildings. Wow, this site extends so far over this way. Let's have a wee look in here, folks. I'm blown away by the size of these massive door stops. It's almost like the doors here have been 12 foot thick. And I'm just wondering if there's been big steel doors here. Look at the runners, corroded and almost gone. And that's because of the coastal air here in this area. Wow, what a scene. Car bonnet or whatever stored in here. I believe there would have been a radar on top of here, potentially a rotating one, but potentially also a stationary one. And down here they would have had the workings for it, all the electronics. And I can see there is an old box, probably original 1950s. But I'm now going to force my way in because he's got it blocked for the sheep, to stop the sheep going in. And yeah, look at this old air vent right here, folks. Wow, 1952 history on the channel here in today's video. It's breathtaking, look at the view. Check out, folks, GPO on there, and that was General Post Office. And that was who used to do all the telecoms and stuff like that in the UK back in the day. I'm heading up to look at this. There's a platform here which they must have mounted the radar system onto. And you can just imagine the dishes aiming a certain way, or maybe even aiming out to the sea. If it was the US Navy, this would have been a key area for monitoring all the movements in the North Sea. But because of modern technologies and stuff, things like this became obsolete. I just think 1952 or whatever, or maybe in the 1960s, this was all put in. The latest technology of its time, top secret military technologies. And then as the years progressed and the time went on, again, things like this become abandoned and almost forgotten in the land, folks. Look, it's like there's been another ladder here with a rung. Oh, this is weird because the roof hangs over so much further at this side, and that's for the thickness of the door, but also the thickness of this roof. These were almost built like bunkers, so if they probably took a direct hit, or even maybe the strike from a nuclear detonation, they would have probably been able to withstand some serious like forces. Another thing, a lot of the nuclear detonations would have been an air burst, because that's how you get maximum effect on the land. Anyway, I'm trying to video and climb down. It's the realest of adventures on the channel, folks. Wow, the scenes are incredible out here. So it's cool I can share history like this with people all over the world, and even people that might have been in the US Navy. It's amazing I can show what's left of these places within the wild lands of Scotland. Look at this, there's another mast here, but I'm not sure if it's a current mast or an abandoned site right there. I'm just wanting to look at this building again to get an idea. There is a lot of these around the site, but if we have a look at this one, that'll be 3 that we've looked at, and we'll get a real idea what is left basically from this era. Over there I can see a modern phone mast, and it just shows these areas are still prime for a good signal, for sending a good signal out, but also receiving it to the building. Look, there's been some sort of mad little lock in the ground there in the middle, or there's been something in there. And then another detail, the massive thick door that's been on here, most likely taken away because it was made out of metal or steel. Look, here's one of the old devices on the wall. I'm guessing that's an original 1950s fitting right there. Wow, that's the same as the one that I saw in the other building. Most of this stuff would have been taken away at the end of the Cold War. Probably when the scrap value was high, a lot of it would have been sent away, and the US military would have cleared the site of all the technologies that was involved. Wow, yeah, and this one's got the ladder going up, but look, this one's got a wee cement base at the ladder, whereas the other ones didn't actually have that. Let's head up here and just have a quick peek. It's got a boulder on the roof, this one, and I think that's to hold the piece of steel in position. So much corrosion out here in the wild coastal air. And even that ladder, look, it's actually sheared off at the bottom. Wow, what a scene of history on the channel, folks. Right, folks, that's us. We've just come out of the Cold War site, and shout out to the gentleman. He came back from, he went and got a fish supper for the nearby town. He came back and he kindly gave us a tour of his own secret bunker which lies underneath his house here. And if you ever do come to this site, I would advise maybe asking permission before you go poking about any of these places like that. He says he didn't want obviously photos and videos taken down there because it's more special when folk come here and visit, they can see things for the first time, and I'm not wanting to be going around putting my camera in people's faces or videoing things on the sly. That's not what this is all about. Yeah, he was such a fine gentleman, and thanks so much for showing us what you showed us today. On this video we've documented the surface features with the respect of the landowner, and it's just been absolutely amazing. On top of each of those buildings we saw, there would have been a massive radar dish that actually rotated. In the crude technology of the era, it was actually like a big metal box with a dish on it. You needed so much of a size of an object for that amount of technology. It just looked mad. We literally got to see the pictures of them building it and everything that was done. We're totally buzzing.
I know.
Anyway, folks, I'm going to end this here. Today we've documented a piece of Cold War history with this rotor bunker hidden in the wild landscape of Scotland. Goodbye from me. Goodbye from the Highlander 87 exploring crew, folks. Check them out on YouTube. And yeah, we'll see you soon.